Well, hello all my friends over the southeast U.S. This is the weekly water outlook, and I'm John Feldt. Well, it was a bit more active over the last 7 days. This ended the 27th. You can see a number of spots, especially Florida. Florida has really been the more active spot with coastal interactions and tropical moisture over the area. But most areas over the southeast U.S. received 2 or 3 days of measurable rain over the last week, ending the 27th. If we look at where precipitation fell, however, it was pretty scattered. Green is about a ½ inch or so, and really yellow is the more soaking rains, the 2-inch rains. And those were confined to Mississippi, and then very heavy rain along the West Florida coast around Tampa. But elsewhere, especially over the Carolinas, it was pretty quiet. North Carolina, no rain at all over central parts of the state, not much rain over Virginia. And elsewhere, I'd say generally fairly modest rain, especially when we compare to what we got earlier this summer. So when we look at the percent of normal for the last 7 days, we sort of see a mishmash. I think we see more significant below normal precipitation over Virginia and North Carolina. Elsewhere, it looks very scattered. You get back those areas, for example, over Alabama, some areas below normal, around Birmingham and North Alabama, very dry. But then around to the South Alabama, quite a bit more precipitation and coverage. You see some blue above normal. So a little bit hard to describe, sort of a mixed type picture. Not really a summertime picture where you'd see it more scattered, but definitely more of a random precipitation. Now, if you've been listening to my briefings, and I know many of you have, I've been talking about that abrupt change in the pattern we've had for a month or so now, where we really ended that rainy spell and got into drier weather. So I wanted to go back and look at the past 30 days percent of normal. And what you see here is most of the area other than Mississippi, and we've had that dividing line right in here for quite some time, where Mississippi has been generally trending wet, and then east over the southeast U.S. has been dry, and then Florida again has been fairly wet. But if we look at the past 30 days percent of normal, we see most of the southeast U.S. has been very dry. We see these yellows and even reds showing 25% of normal over fairly large parts of the southeast U.S. So when we cut off that rain, we really did go more to a dry type pattern in the recent past. Now I wanted to show a couple of accumulated rainfall graphics, and these start on January 1st and go through the current date. Birmingham, Alabama, brown is normal. The green is the observed, so what's actually happened. And then blue is the wettest year, red is the driest. So you can see here at Birmingham, we started off January 1st at 0. And if it's above the brown line, here we have above normal rainfall. It's not getting further ahead, so it's sort of staying sort of neutral. And then as we got into spring, you can see it started really accelerating, getting further away from that normal. So we started, and actually we hit that blue line showing a record wettest year. And we stayed that way right through the summer months, and then all of a sudden we started leveling out here in August, and now we've actually crossed, well, that's the wettest year, and we're actually sort of trending still way above normal, but we've leveled out here, and that's due to that drier conditions that have moved in. Fairly similar in Atlanta. We have built up the surpluses, hitting the record year as we got into the late spring into summer, and then now more recently see how it's leveled out, and that's indicating that we've got drier weather in the region pretty much since the beginning of August. Go to Raleigh, North Carolina, right near the normal line as we got into the spring. Then we started with surpluses, and then here it is again leveling off. Not as much rain as further off to the west over the southeast U.S. You can see, look at the difference here. It's not a record year, but still surpluses for the entire year, but pulling close to normal at all 3 locations. Okay, so let's get back to the forecast and the outlook. Current steering winds, pretty typical for fall, late summer into fall. Quiet pattern, jet stream well to our north. The precipitation that we will get in the southeast U.S. is oftentimes tropical. Tropics have been almost record-breaking low activity this year, but there's still some coastal type interactions going on, and we have some weak systems coming through. Sometimes we have fronts that are stalled, but the jet stream and the jet energy is well to our north. Tropics remain very quiet, just amazing moderately so in some areas. You can see very broad areas of no clouds at all. We'll have to keep an eye on the Caribbean. There's some unsettled weather there, but right now there's no signs that that's going to develop in the near future. So the jet stream analysis for this week, this is very similar to last week. We have the blue line is early this week, the gold line is later this week. We're going to have an area of energy eject out of the southwest U.S. well to our north, so there should be no significant energy that's affecting or producing precipitation over our area. Thus, it looks fairly scattered, similar to last week. Now, the 6 to 10 day, any signs? Not much signs of any change. This little purple dash line here, you see it sees 0. That's saying that the upper jet stream is close to normal for this time of year. I don't see any strong changes one way or the other. We have oftentimes this time of year dry air, sunny skies, beautiful fall weather, and it looks like that is going to continue right into October. So the rain forecast for the next 7 days over the southeast U.S., generally speaking, the driest trend is over the Carolinas, especially central and eastern part of the Carolinas and Virginia. Then as we go west, we see an increased likelihood of some more significant rain over parts of western Mississippi, and then hugging along the coast with some tropical interactions with a boundary right along the immediate coast. But for most of the area, most of Alabama, almost all of Georgia, Carolinas, Virginia, a quiet week, very similar to the last week, probably even less precipitation. And then in Florida, as we've seen, some interaction with tropical rainfall. Taking a look at week 2, I look at the bigger trends for week 2. This goes through the 12th of October. And you see some green over the southeast U.S. Some of this is climatological. I think this is modest. It does not look to me like any tropical activity. Could be some scattered precipitation, but right now it looks to me like close to normal or below normal. Now, you haven't heard me talk about oscillations for a while. I'm going to start talking about those. All I wanted to point out here, and this is the Arctic oscillation, and remember, these are disturbances or imbalances in atmospheric pressure, and when we get one either positive, which is sort of north of this line or above this line, or negative, which is below this line, we tend to have different types of precipitation patterns over parts of the nation. Red is the ensemble model forecast. It looks like it's pretty much close to normal, some above, some below. That's saying to me that we haven't really got into the late fall, winter type pattern yet where we start getting big imbalances of pressure. No signs of that more active period when we get our secondary severe weather season quite yet. So the takeaway, some coastal interactions, otherwise fairly quiet this week over the southeast U.S. And I really don't see much on week 2. There could be some modest precipitation, but I don't see anything all that significant. As always, thank you for listening to today's briefing. If you have any questions, you can always email me. I'd like to hear from you, john@bluewateroutlook.com. If you have something I'd like to that I'm not answering, or if you have any questions, you can always email me. If not, I'll be talking again next week.